You can barely see me again. My name is Fallon and I like to make quilt tops, but I don't always finish them. Earlier this month, I revealed just how many unfinished quilt tops I have in a video that was a lot of fun to make. I really had so much fun making that video, and I loved reading all the comments because so many of you were in the same position that I was. You had a lot of unfinished quilt tops. May not have been as many, it could have been more, less, all of that, but we almost all had a lot of unfinished quilts we wanted to work on. And a few of you told me that you really hoped that I did updates so that you could get motivated to work on your quilt tops. So that is what this video is all about. It's going to be about the quilts that I finished this month. I'm sure you're wondering how many are stacked here. Now, before I say exactly how many quilts there are here, I want you to keep a few things in mind. One, not all of these quilts are large quilts, and some of them, like the one down at the bottom, only needed a binding put on it. Some of these, the tops, well, no, all of the rest of them, the tops were already finished. Some of them were actually already basted and just needed to be quilted and had binding, and quite a few of them already had the binding made for them. I often go ahead and cut the binding fabric when I'm working on a quilt top and get it prepped and ready to go. It just so happened that I didn't get all of these quilted. So like I said, a lot of these are smaller quilts. So just a small, either wall hanging, table topper sized quilt. All of these, except for the one at the very bottom, I quilted myself. I just quilted it on my regular old domestic machine. I actually have a video coming out next week that shows 5 different ideas that are simple walking foot style quilting methods so that you can get your quilts done fairly quickly. So at the end of this video, I'm going to show you some photos of all of these quilts so you can see them a little bit better than me just holding them up here. But let me reveal how many there are. There are 11 quilts here that I finished. Yes, 11. Now, what am I going to do with all these quilts, you might be wondering? Well, some of them are going to get donated. So many of you had suggestions for what I could do with all these quilts. I'm not going to keep them all. I wish I could, because it really gets kind of emotional for me with these. I put so much love and I've had so much fun making these quilts, and it's really hard to not keep them. But I really don't have space for all of them. So I'm actually going to donate this month to the Linus Project. Now, the director there reached out to me, or one of their coordinators, and they really loved this quilt pattern. It is with charm packs and a half a yard of fabric to accent it. Now, they asked if they could link people who are making quilts for them to this video because she was putting together some charm pack kits. So I, of course, said yes, and I am actually going to send this quilt top to them and 2 kits to make it so that they can give them out to somebody who can make some more quilts like this. So I'm sending the Linus Project this quilt here that is completely finished. And then I'm also going to send them 3 quilt tops that were from my stash as well. So these are just unfinished quilt tops that they can have somebody finish. I'm going to put pictures up at the end so you can see them all better as well. So 3 quilt tops and then 2 more finished quilts that I had. These aren't ones that were finished this month. These are ones that I've had stacked up and just look at, all folded pretty. And I'm like, they really need to get donated and so they can get used. So this is a quilt here. And again, I'll put better pictures up at the end. And then this one is so hard for me to give away because I love this one so much. But that is another one. And on the back, it's this beautiful, soft, minky fabric. And I hope this gets loved and used. while I love looking at it stacked up beautifully on my shelves here, I do know that it should get passed on and used and loved. So all of these are going to the Linus Project along with these 2 kits to be able to be made into some more quilts for them. So like I said, all these quilts, I'm so excited to have them all done. I don't know if I'll be able to make this many or finish up this many each month, but I do love the progress I made. I'm so excited about it. And yeah, I think I did a good job. Now, I do want to share a few other things that I worked on this month. So in a few lives, I worked on my red and cream quilt that was an unfinished project. I didn't get it finished this month, but I do have a bunch of blocks up on my design wall just to see how it is coming together. And with the layout I have right now, I only need 2 more blocks, but I do have 8 more here already cut. So I need to think if I should do a different layout or if I want to make 2 more blocks and then have 6 extra that I can do something else with, make a smaller quilt or a wall hanging or a table runner or something. So let me know what you think in the comments. What should I do with this red and cream quilt? I almost forgot to mention too that on one of my lives, I also did a giveaway, and in that giveaway box was 4 unfinished projects of mine. So some lucky winner on that live got one of my puzzle mystery quilts from Cotton Cuts that I had not finished. All of the blocks were put together. It just wasn't brought together in a quilt. They also received a paper piece table topper and my gnome table runner that was not finished, as well as some cute placemats. So those 4 unfinished projects are now gone from my count, as well as the 3 quilts that are getting donated to the Linus Project, and then the 11 I have here. So I'm down to 56 projects that I need to finish, which is still a lot, but I did complete a big chunk of them this month. Now, I did add 1 more project to my unfinished quilt projects though, and that is the Legit Kits Rose that I started on this month. I was really hoping to get more done on that project, but it just didn't happen. It takes a lot more bandwidth from me than I thought that it would. But I am going to still keep working on it. I hope to not bring that project into next year. So I need to get focused on that one. I did start and finish a very fun quilt this month though, and that was a quilt that used up some of my bonus half square triangles. That project was so fun to put together, and I actually did not add that top to my list. I completed that quilt all the way through, which is one of my goals this year. I know that that rose kit is in my unfinished quilt projects though, but I honestly don't feel bad about it because that paper piecing takes a lot more time than I thought it would. At least for me, it does. So with working on all of these unfinished projects comes scraps. And I decided that I was going to store all the scraps I've been gathering from finishing these quilts so that I could put together a quilt at the end of the year to kind of share or remember all of my progress by. And what I decided to do was take my 2" by 3.5" flying geese trim lock and use it to cut my fabric down to this rectangular size. So some of you might know where I'm going with this because it's going to be obviously a scrappy quilt just using all the fabrics from these different quilts. So I'm putting together a little potato chip block. Don't know how large I'm going to make these yet. I'm going to have to go through my stash and see if I can find more of the fabrics from here. But these are really easy to put together and a lot of fun. I'll show you a little bit of a quick tutorial on it. All right, so for the first thing I did was I grabbed fabric from my stash that I've been keeping of all of the fabric from my quilts. And then I'm just using the trim lock here to trim it down. It just makes quick work of it because I can just set this rectangle right on the fabric and twist and turn around and get my rectangle quick and easy. So to make this block, you're going to have two rectangles that kind of go in a vertical fashion. And so I'm just going to grab two, and then you'll have two going the opposite direction. So if these are vertical, horizontal on the top and bottom of that. And then you keep building out the square as large as you want, really. So I am going to have a little bit of Christmas fabric in here. I can balance that out however I would like. But so then I'd have these two kind of going on the sides, and then you go back to the top and have... All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is sew these two center rectangles together. All right, and after sewing these two together and pressing the seam, I'm going to put the top and bottom rectangle on and sew a 1/4 inch seam and press those as well. All right, and now I'm going to sew these two together, press the seams, and then sew them along this side. And then, as you can see, I only needed 2 for the top and bottom here. So I'm going to choose some... I think I'm going to leave the red to balance there. And I don't have either of those yet in here. So, and then I only need 3 on the side. Since I have that one in, I'm going to leave that. I guess my brain was malfunctioning a little bit. Make sure I have all these in here somewhere. But it's just a scrappy block. So if your brain malfunctions when you're figuring out what you need to have to build it out, it's okay. You can readjust if needed. So I'm going to sew these two together, a 1/4 inch seam, and then sew them to the top and bottom of the square that I'm building here. All right, so you can really build this block as large as you want. I think I'm going to put these 3 on the sides and then maybe reassess if I've got enough fabric in it from all the quilts I finished this month. I really don't have a lot of fabric from some of my older ones, so there might just be some backing in here. But I'm going to keep searching through fabric and keep adding fabric into my stash as I build these finish these quilts and build blocks for the quilt at the end of the year that has a block from hopefully each month. So I'm going to sew these 3 together, add them onto the sides, and yeah, I'll show you the finished block then. All right, so that's the quick tutorial on the potato chip block. I'll link some other tutorials down in the description because this honestly the first time I ever put one together. But I think it's a pretty easy block and it's really a lot of fun. A great way to use up scraps, whether you're doing it this way to remember quilts by, or if you're just doing it to use up scraps. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a fun block and I think it's going to be fun to get 12 of them, put it together in a quilt, and be able to remember all the progress I made this year on my unfinished quilt projects. All right, so now I'm going to share some photos of all the quilts I finished, and then I'll also share some photos of the quilts that I am donating to the Linus Project so you can take a look at those.
Empty hearts and neon lights, they're playing with my mind. Gotta get out of here tonight. Oh, I wanna run off and fly. And I'll tell myself it's fine to be alone, just to find somewhere that finally feels like home. Oh, oh, oh. I hate all this overthinking. Oh, 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 oh. The more I swim, the more I'm sinking. Take me to a turning truth to lies. Gotta get up, stop wasting time. Yeah, I wanna run off and fly. And I'll tell myself it's fine to be alone.
All right, so that is what I got done this month. Hopefully you are as motivated as I am to keep up working on all of the unfinished projects we may have. Let me know in the comments what you accomplished this month, even if it's just getting the binding on one quilt. Don't feel bad about it. We all have different time frames that we can work in. You may have a project that you started that you really want to work on, and that's okay. Work on what brings you joy. Now, if you didn't get to work on any of your unfinished quilts, but got some other work done on another project, maybe it's a knitting project or a cross stitch project, I'd still like to hear about it, because you know we all love all of the projects we're working on, whether it's old or new. I still want to hear about it, because I did work on new projects too. I mentioned those as well. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.